right, welcome to another episode of the Amigo Curtcast. I'm your host, Samantha Taylor, along with my co-host, Scott.
Hi there.
How we doing?
I'm good. It's a Friday.
We can't say the date because it's not going to be released on a Friday.
Okay. I'm great.
Okay, this episode is going to be a fun one, kind of a continuation of our last discussion around maybe some trends that we're seeing in the industry, and we have a very special guest here today. So I'd like to welcome Seth Weisberg. Did I say that
You sure
correct?
did. Thank you. Weisberg, it doesn't
Fantastic.
matter to me.
Weisberg.
I'll tell you what my dad used to say, as long as you call me, I'm happy. Call me whatever you want.
I love that. That's a great salesman mentality.
Tell you what, he was a
That's
good
good.
salesman. He was a good salesman. But thank you for the warm welcome. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little history, if I could, of Seth to introduce to our audience. So you, Seth, are a seasoned entrepreneur and business leader with a strong track record of success across multiple industries. In April of this year, 2025, following the acquisition of ABCO Systems by Element Logic, you became the Chief Revenue Officer of Element Logic US, where you now drive strategic revenue growth across American markets, which is huge. It's fantastic. We can't wait to hear more about that. Seth graduated from Northeastern University and began his career at PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC, progressing from a help desk representative on quickly to a project manager. Later then led and transformed the family business of ABCO, growing it from $2 million to nearly $70 million in annual sales. In parallel with that, you also launched and successfully sold a chain of boutique yoga studios. With your career is defined as a deep commitment to exceptional customer service, which is credited to the cornerstone of his sustained success. So we have had the pleasure of witnessing some of this passion with you and through a few projects, including our newest launch of Amigo guided by FastFetch, which I hope to get into that a little bit more later on. But without further ado, of course, here's Seth.
Well, I'll tell you, whoever wrote that, they're awesome. They did a great job, and I appreciate that. I'm going to guess and say it's Maida. But yeah, so I've had a lot of luck. I've been blessed in a lot of ways, but yeah, in a lot of different modalities, I've focused specifically on the customer. So every time I've gone into a different environment, my focus has always been on how can I help the team? How can I help the customer? My focus has always been on people. So whatever the business is, if we focus on people, that tends to bleed its way into revenue and building of business.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And one thing, I guess, obviously, you've been extremely successful in your professional career. If you were to look back and give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would you say it would be?
Start earlier, actually. You know, so many people sacrifice good for great. And one of the best bits of advice I ever got was from a book that I read, which was Start Now. And I didn't do that. I didn't start that till I was in my 30s. I didn't read that book until I was in my 30s. And if I'd read that earlier, I think I would have been that much more successful that much earlier, or not necessarily that much more successful, but I would have had that much more experience really taking risks. And I think people are just afraid to take risks. Myself included.
Right. Start now. So our founder, Al Teamy, is an avid reader. I don't know how many
got books
does he-
behind us right
like
here.
One of the many libraries at Amigo here is where we're sitting. And I'm going to see if that's one that's on a shelf here because I'm curious
I
to
bet
see.
it would be.
I'm sure it is.
Yes,
I'm sure
I'm
it
sure.
is. Start now.
What I think is unique, Seth, and I've had the ability to work with your team there at ABCO, attend a lot of your open houses, obviously chat with you at trade shows, but I did not know until just now how you focused on people, and that's I hate to say it, but that's what Amigo does.
Well, and I think sometimes because obviously I've had the pleasure of working with the team as well, and I think that kind of goes without being said. Like you feel it more so than you know. But to hear you say it, like it's full circle. Absolutely,
Sure.
You don't necessarily have to say it.
Well, I mean, that's
to
one of the
us,
reasons
but
that I
we
love
feel it.
partnering with you guys. Your entire business model revolves around people. I mean, everything, the founder, the way you guys even started your business was to make life easier and more comfortable for people. So it makes sense that that's the way you are, and that's clearly your culture internally as well. So I think that's one of the reasons that ABCO, Legacy ABCO, and Amigo were such a great partnership to begin with.
Yeah.
I thought it was that they both started with A.
Oh,
And one has 4 letters, and the other has
Listen,
5, right?
it could have been a number of
AMIGO.
different reasons. Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
it's a coincidence there, I
Sure.
think. So let's touch on that a little bit. I'm curious of the history of ABCO and this recent acquisition with Element Logic. It's very exciting. We see it posted all over, and I think definitely feel the energy continuing. So tell us a little bit about that. What led you to the acquisition? But let's back up first and share a little bit about ABCO and the history
All
there.
right. Well, I'm going to try and be somewhat succinct because I don't want to bore anybody, but I'm going to give you a truncated version, summarized version. Okay. So, um, my father had a heart attack. He needed assistance in 2003. And when I came in, it was only supposed to be temporary, supposed to be for a few months to help him get back on his feet. And when he got out and we started working together, he never really fully came back just because his health was never there. When he came back, maybe 6, 8 months into it, he said, "Why don't you stay full time?" And I said, "Dad, I'd love to. This has been a great couple of months for me and for you and for us, even for our relationship. But we have to change something. We need to make some alterations because we focus specifically on garment on hanger, which is that rod in your closet, put your clothes on. We
Yep.
would do that based out of pipe and steel in small buildings and stock rooms and massive buildings as well. But it was one aspect of a project. And certain things that I learned at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which I had great management, great leadership there, was develop a wide array of products. So we went from Abco equipment into ABCO Systems because we wanted to be selling full service systems. So almost immediately, I started thinking about again people. So hired very very well. I got very lucky. In fact, my first 4 hires, probably more than that, 5, 6, 7, 8 hires are still with us, but my first 4 um, ended up being the leadership team, and they're still with us today. And we evolved dramatically from one thing into the next. We went from pallet rack into platforms, into multi-level structures and pick modules and conveyance and sortation. And then fast forward, you know, we had a lot of success and we got very lucky. But let's be real, the industry was doing well. Amazon changed the culture. People realized that if you put money into your distribution center, you are going to reap the rewards. You're going to find benefit from that, right? So it went from a cost center to an opportunity. And while there was a lot of businesses that stayed stagnant during that time, there was also many, many businesses that grew, and we were one of them. Again, got lucky, good timing, good team, proper attitude in terms of dealing with customers and people in general. In At one point when we started doing about $40 million a year, I said to myself, I can't do this on my own. I mean, and not that I was on my own, 'cause I had a great team, but I didn't know what I didn't know. I needed some assistance. I knew that I needed help. I knew with numbers that big, we just weren't sophisticated enough. And I knew we had so much potential because we did have such a good team and such a great industry. And I'd looked into potential partners, never really worked out for whatever different reason. And then all of a sudden, I met the Zaf group, and it was one of those fortuitous meetings. Everything was great from the very beginning. We ended up starting to develop this great relationship. They purchased majority share of the company in 2020, literally like in the middle of COVID, and it was great for us. Truly, it was great for us. Mike Zafarowski, great guy, great man, great leader, businessman, etc. He wanted to leave what he was doing. He worked at GE for many years, was on the board of Boeing. He's interviewed multiple presidents. He wanted to build something sustainable. He wanted to do like a smaller Buffett model, right? So he helped us with the sophistication. He knew that we knew how we needed to do it and what we needed to do. So he let us run the day to day while him and his team helped us build the sophistication of the business. Everything from having monthly financial reviews to having board meetings to personal at the end of the year the por- help me out here.
Performance.
Thank you very
Performance.
much. Performance reviews. Yeah, we never did that. We never
I
did
were
that.
something.
And I think I blocked on it a little because I hate them. But It's so important, right? So important to have. But they brought so much to the table, and it allowed us to get to another place. So we went from 40 million to really at one point, I mean, our last year we did in the neighborhood of 70, but the year before that we did 78 million. So really scratching at 80 million, knowing that we
Wow.
weren't that
Yeah,
far
it's
away from
incredible.
100. But we realized, as much as we were doing automation, a lot of the processes and a lot of the services that we provided were outsourced. So we were at a disadvantage because of that. And we weren't able to properly take care of our customers because of that. So even though Mike's goal was always to hold businesses in perpetuity, we had some frank conversations because he's a businessman, he's a smart guy. And we had some really frank conversations and realized there's not that much more that the ZAF group was able to do with us at that point in time. Meaning, we needed we needed either a large influx of money to buy a business, to start doing acquisitions, or build it organically, and we just didn't think the timing was right to do that for whatever reason. So we decided to go out looking, and it was incredibly validating because there was an enormous amount of interest. But going back to the whole thing with Element, I've always had a relationship with the legacy SDI team, and Element Logic, monsters overseas in Europe, across the world, really. They sell tons of auto store, really, really great company, great culture, great people. They bought SDI 3 years ago because they wanted to build their US presence, and they've been doing a great job of doing that. I had a great relationship with Chris, great relationship with Baron and Mary and Christopher, a lot of the leadership from that company, right? Because we'd done a lot of work together. We even competed against each other, but even competing against each other, we worked well together, right? There was always respect. There was always appreciation, and when appropriate, communication. So when the information went out that we were ultimately looking for partners, uh, Chris and I had a conversation. He told me that he was interested, and they threw their hat in the ring. Um, and it was a wonderful process. It was really cool. And I'd sold a business before, the yoga studios, as you mentioned, small potatoes, and I'd sold a majority share of ABCO before, but this was a whole new experience. They're owned by a PE, and I think a lot of people get a bad feeling when you hear PE. These guys
Hmm.
are great. The whole process was great. They're people focused. There was no arguments. There was no big debates. I mean, the whole process was inspiring, really, and they make you want to work for them. So, Element Logic ended up being a natural choice because they've got so much in terms of their technology, whereas we had so much in terms of static storage that we've been doing for so many years. And they realized as well that they needed to expand their horizon because they were so focused on AutoStore. Great product, right? But again, let's be real, similar to GOH many years ago, if you're selling full service systems, you're offering that much more to your customer base. So they saw that they had they wanted to grow more in the US, and they realized that a good way to do that is through acquisitions. B, they saw the value in bringing in additional talent and additional ability with other modalities of storage and automation, because we have some things that overlap. Um, and it was just a great marriage. And right now we are 7 weeks into it, 6 or 7 weeks into it. It's going great. Just like any other integration, there's the challenges that you've got, but I can't say enough wonderful things about the leadership team and about the opportunities that we have right now. And I think that this is the next big thing. I really think that Element Logic in the US is the next big thing. There's a team here that is focused on people, is focused on customer service, focused on doing the right things every time. And they're really, really good with a ton of experience and a ton of backing in Europe. It's impressive to watch.
No, that's fantastic. And I can't wait to be along for the ride every step of the
Well, I
way.
can't wait for
So
you to
one
come
of
with
our
us.
yeah, one of our core values at Amigo, you said too, like do the right thing, and that's one of our core values. So I think it just speaks to everything that you have already implemented. It just, yeah, seems like a natural fit. One thing you just mentioned was just how maybe advanced maybe some of their technologies are, and what you already had history
Yeah.
in. Which brings up a really great point. Where do you see maybe some new things that your team is going to learn about or be able to share in with Element Logic
Sure.
and what they have to
Sure.
offer?
So every day we're looking at new things. And when I say we, I
Hmm.
really mean they, right? Because we're focused right now on the integration, but they've got people consistently looking at AI. They've got people looking at robotics. I mean, of course, the shuttles are essentially robots, right? But there's so much coming out today, and they've got teams right now looking at everything that's happening. They started essentially the auto store vibe. I mean, they were the first implementation of AutoStore ever, and AutoStore at the time, it still is to some degree cutting edge technology, but it's been a while, right? Um, that's one of the reasons that they're so good at AutoStore specifically because their level of experience, the amount of implementations they've done, the software, most importantly, the software that they've developed that goes along with it for the implementation. So right now they're consistently looking at new opportunities to duplicate ultimately what they did with AutoStore. And I think that revolves around AI. That's my personal opinion. And I'll be very honest, AI scares me when you look at the potential for it. Um, but there's also so much opportunity if we do it the right way. And I know that internally we certainly are, and there's a lot of value that it provides so far. So it's been an exciting run and it's exciting watching it.
So it's kind of funny. I've been since 17. 18 was my first Modex, then obviously ProMat, then Modex and ProMat. You know all that,
Mm.
Seth, because you've gone to probably all those. What's really interesting though is these shows now, kind of where you guys are going. There's so much automation. I mean, when I went in 18, there wasn't much at all with these AGVs, AGCs,
Mm.
and automation. But now, when you go to these shows, whether it's Atlanta or Chicago, there's rooms of automation. So I guess is this what you guys saw coming, and is that kind of why? Did that kind of help you move on to the next step with
It's a
Element?
great question. And yes, that's exactly what we saw coming. Pallet rack, mezzanines, pick modules, way more technical than they once were, right? Like it used to be something people store them outside. You throw up
Yeah.
the cheapest way to do it, right? And there's still some people that do that, and it's a valid business, no question about it. But if you're putting up a big system, it's very, very technical. And there's a lot of mistakes that can be made if you're not working with the right partner. And we were good in that space, and we continue to be very effective in that space, but it's still a commodity and there are still the
Right.
challenges with it. So we saw the writing on the wall, knowing that how much can we continue competing? How much can we continue growing, selling steel, selling a commodity, right? So we knew that we needed to get into the technology and there was some things internally that we were lacking and that's ultimately what we wanted to do. But I want to make the point, if you go to those shows, there's like you said, there's enormous amounts of automation there, right? A lot of it's the same.
Mm-hmm. Is it
Oh
really?
yeah, different license plate on it, but a lot of it really truly is the same thing. So it's interesting to watch, but what you're going to notice now, I believe, is it's all about the software. It's all about who's writing the code and how the product moves through the building and how it creates efficiencies and how it reduces errors. That's where the genius comes in going forward. Now, you'll see all sorts of things like humanoid robots, you'll see dog form robots. And do I think that there's a place for that? I do. I do. I'm not sure how soon that's going to come. It might be fast. Impossible. I wish I had my crystal ball because if I did, I would be investing in all the right places, right? But I'll use and I know that this is potentially an odd thing to do, but I have a lot of respect for the competition out there, right? And DMW&H is a great company, and years ago, like they literally cornered the wine and spirits market. Now there's a lot of competition doing similar things at this point in time, but they did it because of their software, the way they were moving product through a building, the way they were loading trucks, the way they were offloading their trucks. It was just very smart software. And that's one of the reasons Team W&H grew the way they did. And they're a great company. I've got some good friends there that do a really, really good job. But let's look at Symbotic, another similar type of story. Newer company owned partially by Walmart, which is obviously an incredible brand for so many different reasons. But like I went to go look at one of those Symbotic systems, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, you've got the robotic arms just putting product on pallets that are thinking so far ahead from the product that they're pulling, coming to the robot, for the robot placing it onto the pallet in the proper way, the pallet going to the truck in the proper way, so the pallet comes off the truck that goes into the store in the proper way, all to create efficiencies and reduce errors. Because again, people realize that distribution and logistics is an opportunity. And that's one of the things, that's one of my challenges today. The environment shifted, right? The economy has slowed down. I think everybody's seeing that. Our business is still doing well, some are, sure, but I think everybody's seeing a slowdown to some degree. Now is the time. Now is the time actually to invest. I think it's going back to the methodology, the thought process, once again, that it's a cost center, right? That people are nervous to be spending money. They're nervous to invest. Now is absolutely the time to invest. Putting in an auto store, putting in a conveyor sortation system, invest in your facility now, because what happened was all the big guys, the Targets, the Amazons, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, they all spent money early on putting in automation, and they pulled away from so many different companies. It made it difficult to compete, right? And then a lot of the 3PLs out there started to really jump in on it, and people realized again they needed to be automating, they needed to be investing, and they were, which was great. But now that everything's slowed down a little bit, we all know that everything's cyclical, right? We know that the way economies run are cyclical. We know that logistics and distribution is coming back. There's no way it's not. It literally drives this country. No matter how you slice it, it drives the country. So if we know it's coming back, which we do, you don't want to be building in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You want to be building today. You want to be putting Amigo carts in a facility today, creating those processes, right? You want to be reducing the foot traffic. You want to be reducing the fatigue that the employee is feeling. You want to be determining best practices when it's a little bit slower. You want to be building when it's a little bit slower, and you want to be ready to capitalize on it when everything picks up.
I think that's wonderful. Proactive rather than reactive.
Most definitely. And I will tell you, Seth, you guys, I mean, give you all the credit in the world, because when you do go to those shows, and like you said, whether it's a human robot or whether it's a dog robot, that stuff to us looks really, really overwhelming. You talk about software. I mean, we all look at that stuff in awe, but it has to work. So maybe when you talk about people again, are you, and you don't appear to be an afraid kind of guy, but does any of that stuff keep you up at night when you think we just put a system in, and what happens if the system has troubles, like, and you've got issues? I mean, not
Absolutely
that you
keeps
have
me
issues,
awake at
but
night.
that's got to be a little
Oh yeah,
frightening.
it is frightening. And listen, when you're putting in automation, it's not smooth. It's never smooth. If you're
Uh-huh.
building a house, right? The beautiful part about somebody like a skilled an artist, a carpenter, a plumber, there's always going to be problems, always, right? You're figuring it out as you go along. Ultimately, that person's not moving into that house, hopefully, right? Unless they're doing a remodel, but you're literally changing, molding, and creating something as you go along. It's no different with a technology project. So as you roll out the technology, you're gonna have bugs. It's inevitable. They're always gonna be there. And it is scary, right? Because people hire us and people hire other companies to make sure that they are successful. And when somebody
Right.
puts their trust in you, and I know this is the way that people feel at Element, this is certainly the way people felt at ABCO. When somebody puts your trust in you, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that they're successful. And that's how we're going to be successful in the future anyway, right? So knowing that there's going to be those challenges and knowing that there's going to be those issues, it absolutely keeps me awake at night. Because if you have a problem in a labor intensive facility, you can throw more labor at it. It's going to cost you more money, but you throw more labor at it and you can ultimately get it out. You can ultimately take care of what your problems are. In an automated system, a fully automated system, it's a lot more challenging because if it doesn't work, if something's down, if the power's out, um, it's a bigger problem. And if somebody's not shipping for 2 or 3 or 4 days, and I can confidently say that's never happened to us, but I know that that type of thing does happen. I've seen it before. And and certainly, like I said, I mean, we've had our fair share of problems, and we'll continue to. But that's the difference between different types of partners, right? And that's why you want to make sure that you're with the right partner. You want to pick someone that you know really values you and values your business. It isn't there for one job, but it's there for a long-term relationship. So you know that they're going to consistently stay awake at night, making sure that they're taking care of it.
I didn't even think, honestly, with all the electronics and everything we see, what happens if the power does go out? Now, I'm sure a lot of your customers in these big operations have
They do.
generator backups and things like that. So they're good. But I never even thought the fact that not only is it our product that we got to worry about, but the power goes out.
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say it probably gives you a little comfort though in knowing that like if there is always going to be some sort of need for human element, right? Like there's always going to be
Yes.
that human aspect of it to where, like you said, we're a phone call away. We have people that are able to react quickly and be able to solve the problems or issues at hand. So there's always that piece of human element. So no worries of the world of AI taking over, and rather than a zombie apocalypse, no, it's the robots taking over.
Well, listen, I think minimal worries about something like that. I wouldn't say no worries, but
Okay,
but
sure.
but definitely people are necessary, and I can't stress that enough. What we're seeing is that the people that really want to work and people that really want to do these types of jobs, they're enjoying their work that much more, and they're learning that much more. They're that much more valuable of a team member. They're getting a better education in the facility. They're doing more exciting things within the facility. So yeah, it's still incumbent upon people to run them. We're taking a lot of the human element out, for sure, but that's also because labor and the labor force is shrinking dramatically. So there's some necessities to do it.
Yeah, I think this might be a great transition to talk about our recent partnership together with the Amigo guided by
Mhm.
FastFetch. So in the world where we're moving towards these autonomous sites, and like you said, if you got to think about it today so that it's fully implemented by tomorrow. So we recently work together
Mhm.
on the Amigo guided by FastFetch, which is it's not autonomous. It really is helping to help our current labor force work more
Mhm.
efficiently. So if you want to maybe share with your experience and where do you see that being fit into some of the current facilities that you're
Well,
seeing?
I love this question too. So, you know, there's a lot of different types of companies out there, right? And with a lot of different budgets and a lot of different goals. And there's a lot of different ways to ensure you're creating a better distribution center. And we've quoted an enormous amount of Amigo carts. We're continuing to quote. We've sold quite a few, as you well know, and the feedback has always been great. And while an AGV or an AMR is always going to be effective, there's going to be a lot of facilities that that's not appropriate for. It just doesn't make sense, right? Because different business models, different logistics models require different answers. And I can't say enough how much I love the Amigo cart because you are making that environment so much better and so much more efficient for the people within the facility. Instead of carts that are going back and forth a dozen times a day, you can daisy chain these carts together and pull them on the Amigo. It's the feedback that we get consistently is it's flexible, which is super important because you're not always going to know where to go. You're not always going to know what to do. And you need to have that human touch in a lot of ways, right? So what your product does is allows the human touch to stay within the sphere of influence, and it's very, very important in a lot of facilities, and we're seeing that. We've got a number of customers right now, especially combined with our FastFetch and our light picking technologies. You know, you bring those carts out there, one person can do a dramatic amount of work in a much shorter amount of time, um, pulling them back to the packers, and all of a sudden you're quadrupling, if not more, your efficiencies.
Hey, Samantha, you know, in a personal relationship, they always say opposites attract. You've heard that, right?
Absolutely.
So what's kind of cool, Seth, is that whenever we go to these shows, and this is not about shows, but it just kind of relates, you'd be amazed the amount of people that say, your product is so simple. Well, then they back it up and say, no disrespect, and we say, no disrespect taken, right? I mean, we're if you ever come here, we're in the middle of a cornfield, in the middle of Michigan. It's flat out here. I mean, it is what it is. And we embrace simple, whether it's simple to use, simple to operate, simple to repair, all of that stuff. So my whole personal relationship simple, and or the opposites attract,
Yep.
Samantha, was you've got
This amazing technology,
Of
more
course.
complex.
right and our simple products. And you see that, Seth, you do not see that. I mean, you see that being going forward, right? You don't see that changing, do
Not
you?
not at all. I would argue that simple
Right.
is probably the most important thing we can focus on. And I think a lot of companies out there are trying to complicate things for no real reason. I think keeping it simple is a more effective solution than people oftentimes realize. So without question, I do not see anything changing with your product.
No, that's fantastic. And we embrace it, honestly. We from day one, 1968, you can see all of the literature. You can see our first Amigo back then, how the handlebar came off the seat, the battery. In 1968, think about that for a second. That's a few years ago. So we embrace
I
that.
wasn't born yet.
I was.
My mother was, I think, 12 in 1968.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a few years ago. Now, not that I'm taking the questions, but I did have a question from the beginning that I wanted to ask you. What does ABCO stand for?
It doesn't stand for anything. It's in the yellow pages back in the day, ABC.
Really?
Yeah, exactly right. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of ABCOs out there. There's ABCO refrigeration, ABCO storage systems, like for like actual people that do storage. And there's ABCO electric. There's quite a bit because people were taking advantage of their placement in the big
That's
book.
a great story.
Yellow pages.
Yeah.
That was 1968.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that would put you ahead is if you named it Aaron, right? Like AA.
That's right. That's right.
Then
Yeah.
you're right at the top.
right.
but
Two A's.
Yeah, two A's, double A.
Listen, it
No,
makes
that's
a
good
big difference,
story.
right? Marketing is everything, as you guys well know. Marketing is
Absolutely.
everything. If people don't see how great your product is because they can't see your product, you're not going to sell it. And having a great product, the whole idea is making sure that everybody sees it. So I'm a huge fan of marketing personally, and I love doing things like this because it really shows what's out there. And I constantly watch what the competition is doing because there's a lot of smart people doing a lot of good things.
That's fantastic. Now, before I think we move on, I do want to know if someone wants to learn more about what you do and what you have to offer, where should they go? Where can we direct them?
To our website, Element Logic. I mean, literally, I would make it as simple as possible. Do a Google search for Element Logic. You can do a Google.
And then bookmark it.
I'm sorry, and bookmark it. That's exactly.
And then bookmark
that's
it so
exactly
they
right.
can go back and look at it again.
Exactly right. But I mean, I would always be happy to share my email address, which is sethw@abcosystems.net. That will be changing, but of course that will be forwarded because of course we're working on the integration right now. But I mean, our LinkedIn pages, I mean, abcosystems.net is still active as well. So there's a lot of ways to reach us. Or you can literally just type in best in the business and we come up first anyway.
They buy all those AdWords and all that.
It works.
Yeah.
Marketing.
I did have a quick question. You'd mentioned your father back when you went and started with him. How many employees did you have then, and how many do you have now?
3.
3 back
Three
then?
then, yes.
Were you
Three.
included in that
I'm
3?
not including myself. That was just labor
Okay.
staff. There was 3 guys in the field, and they did not like me one bit. You know, they saw me as coming in as like the father's son, I guess. I don't know, but it was a challenging time for me coming from PricewaterhouseCoopers, which was a monster company in a beautiful environment with great leadership and a great team environment. And then when I came into this environment, it was we didn't have heat in the winter. We had those tiny little ceramic space heaters to keep your toes from freezing. We didn't have AC on the windows because we had bars on the windows in our environment. So it's been a heck of a ride since then. But yeah, we had 3 people, and now when we sold, we were at 50 plus people. Yeah,
Gotcha.
but
Gotcha.
we sub a lot of our labor out. We've got a couple really, really wonderful labor companies that we work with. Always looking for more, of course, but we could have anything from anywhere from 150 to 200 people in the field as well.
And you're nationwide, right? I mean, you're not just out of New Jersey, you're
We are
everywhere.
nationwide, and one of the amazing benefits of Element is Element does work all over the world. And SDI, even prior to Element, did work in Canada, did work in South America. SDI, incredible company as well, led by really great people. So yeah, they built a really nice business with a lot of partnerships across the world. So we can quite literally go anywhere people need us to. Australia, Hong Kong, you name it.
Well, I think we're just about out of time here, but we really appreciate this wonderful conversation and you spending some time with us this afternoon. We just have enjoyed, like I said, our partnership together, and your team has been amazing to us, and we can't wait to see your continued growth and success with the new acquisition.
Right back at you. I love working with you guys. The team loves working with you guys. It's a great marriage that we have here. So I can't wait to continue on creating successful customers through combination of what we're doing together.
It's wonderful.
Thank you for
Very
having me,
excited.
back guys. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
You're welcome.
absolutely. And until next time,
Keep it
rolling.
rolling.